Hey guys, so I finally got to watch the second episode of Starmyu. So I will be combining this video with last week's episode and this week's episode of Starmyu. So just like I expected, it's a lot like Buddha no Prince Sama. It's like, I don't even know how to describe it, but if you watch the first episode, you're like, yeah, this is, and if you've seen Utapri, then yeah, you can see like a lot of like similarities into the series. There are some similarities between the main character Hoshitani and Haruka from Utapri. They're somewhat similar in a way, but not really. Another thing that I thought was a lot like Utapri was that there's a character that literally looks a lot like Tokia. And then there's another thing that this character is living under his brother's, like, I guess shadow or whatever you want to call it. Which, if you go back to Utapri in the first season, how Tokia was supposedly living under his, like, brother's shadow or whatever you want to call it. But it turns out, we learned later on that it wasn't. That it was pretty much the same person. But unlike with this series, you know, this boy is literally living under his brother's shadow. So, like, with this first episode, it looks like this boy is being compared to his older brother that's, like, really successful and everything. And, yeah, so it's pretty much kind of like what could have been if Tokia had an older brother. I think that's the only similarities that was with Utapri. The funny thing about this first episode is that there's a guy that looks like Ray from Free, and the funny thing is also is that he's voiced by the same voice actor as Ray, and they made like a Free reference too, and it was just very, very funny. So what this first episode mainly focused on was the auditions revolving around these boys. So we get introduced to two boys, and their name is Hoshitani and Nayuki. Nayuki is like this very timid boy and is very shy and like awkward and very, very adorable. I really like him, and it might have to do with the Ono Kensho voices him. And then we have Hoshitani, who is voiced by Hana Natsuki, and you may know him as Kaneki Ken. So with this first episode, we also get introduced to like these other boys, but we don't really know much about them. So this whole episode just mainly focuses on these two boys and their auditions. And we see like this very, very popular boy group there that pretty much is like the main thing. And they're all pretty strict and go by the rules. And then we see like this other guy that does like his things his own way. And he doesn't really follow the rules. He just kind of goes with whatever, you know, he feels is right. We see like this group of boys that they weren't, you know, it looked like really bad for them that they weren't going to get into like the, what was it? I think it was the star category, whatever it's called. I can't really remember now. But yeah. So they're all trying out to get into like the star program. We had Nayuki pretty much say, you know, that he had a feeling that he wasn't going to do well, and that he wasn't gonna make it onto the star program. With that, we have Hoshitani pretty much encourage him and tell him, you know, you don't know that until they post, you know, the list. So at the very end of the episode, to their surprise, they got in. And in this next episode, we see who pretty much picked these boys out. And it was the one that pretty much doesn't follow the rules, and he pretty much takes them under his wing. And from the other main group of boys, they also like picked like their own groups as well, and they pretty much just kind of like train them in order to pass like the next test or whatever. And from there we have like this redheaded boy that's very, very rude. So this whole second episode pretty much revolves about them doing like this play, which was like, I guess kind of like an improv kind of thing. Because he gave them like a script, but like part of it wasn't like complete at all. So they had to pretty much create their own from there. And we see that Hoshitani has a very hard time coming up with something. And the other boys pretty much already know what to do because they're used to it. They have done something like this before. Even Nayuki, which is like the very, very timid boy, knew what to do, and he actually did something. And it wasn't until the very end where Hoshitani pretty much, you know, actually did something with the help of one of the boys a little bit, but they kind of just brush him off like he's nothing. And so at the very end of the episode, we see that the mentor pretty much, you know, believes that this group of boys can be truly something like awesome and amazing. So like I said, at the end of the episode, we get the boy with the red hair pretty much come up to the mentor and say, you need to get rid of this boy, which is Hoshutani, because you already saw how bad he did today on his first day. And I was just like so pissed at that boy, because it's kind of like he's just very rude and very obnoxious, and he thinks that he's better than everybody, which I really don't like him. So right now, as of right now, I don't like him. Other than that, this whole two episodes were really good, and I really liked it, so I will continue watching it for sure. And yeah, if you guys like Utapri, I recommend you guys watching it. So yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! With you reading some books. And we find out that he's trying to figure out a way to bring vampires back to humans. So in other words, he's trying to find a way to make Mika a human again. Not too long after that, we see that he has